offshore credit union started the Temenos Business Intelligence Insight product installation in about 2010. I was just wondering if you go into a bit more detail about how that process is going, and maybe why you decided to choose Temenos.
Absolutely. We had just finished our conversion to the T24 banking system, and we were running it on a SQL platform, so I should make that note. That was one of the advantages that I liked about Insight. It was based on Microsoft's SQL stack and on their BI strategy roadmap. But at that time, we were using basically a SQL warehouse and some small tools to pull information out. What we didn't have was sort of an overall strategy of a tool that could provide us both insights of the front end and also the back end, and bringing that information together so that there was a sort of a common belief that that was the right repository of information that told the current state of what we were doing.
I mean, the process is really all about sort of, integrating all your data silos in the credit union. And I mean, it's been a phased installation project, and I think you're probably pretty much at the end right at the moment. What business benefits have been realized from the Insight installation so far? Can you give us any numbers?
I think it's a combination of numbers and behavior of people believing in a center of truth versus keeping their own spreadsheets around. And so what it's done is, in particular, is being able to get our financial advisors onto a common balanced scorecard, which we had been attempting to do for some time. And the Insight project actually finally nailed that. And so that's what they work off of. And so what that's done is, in some of the figures it's seen as some of the obvious things where you think your core segments are providing profitability to you. What you're missing is some of the newer segments coming up that may have resources that are not exposed because the information we had before was more focused on our more senior members versus the younger ones coming up, and that's what that exposure has done. And so we've seen opportunities now, again to build on our share of wallet strategy, where we think now that we have another area of about 5% of our membership that we can actually now build a whole profitable state for us with them. Yeah.
I mean, during the presentation here at the Temenos conference, they talked about that the installation was allowed to be redefined as it was being rolled out in the organization. I mean, how did that work, and how did that help with sort of the cultural change within your staff?
Yeah, I think the important thing about information is that everybody has their own view of information, their own sort of, if you could be, their own view out of that window of what they're seeing. And so what this project did was to try and figure out how do you bring all those different people who have all their own views of that information to a common understanding of what they're seeing. And so by allowing the project team to first sample out information to get feedback, and then go back and then bring another iteration to the table, I think what that did was starting to satisfy everybody's own interest of what they wanted to see in that information. And once they started tackling those individuals, those kind of power information users, one at a time, was then the project overall started getting more traction and more buy-in as an enterprise view, that this information now represents all those different views, and everybody can drill down, but they all start at the same place. And I think that's why the project is successful, and is also successful in the fact that not just finding new ways of gaining more profitability and segments that are not being serviced, whatever, but actually changing the way the organization looks at information. So culturally, there is a shift on how people use it. Yeah.
Thank you very much.